Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. We do have a good bit to talk about in this morning's video, as we're going to have a powerful storm system later this week into early next weekend. So we're going to speak on all the details that we know. What we do know is that there is going to be a severe weather side to this, and there most likely is going to be a winter weather side to this. That could be a blizzard. We're still trying to figure out both, but in my opinion, right at this second, I do think things will flip-flop compared to the system last week. And I do think the severe weather side will be more significant than the snow side or blizzard side, if there is one. And if you remember to last week's system, that blizzard side, I think, was more significant than the severe weather side. So we're going to speak on both. We'll spend more time on severe weather, but we'll talk on a flooding risk. We'll speak on winds, and we'll break it all down for you folks. And we'll just kind of nerd out with you guys a little bit too. Just try to explain all the dynamics that are coming together that support a multi-day opportunity for severe weather across areas of the country. And then we'll talk about today's weather. I do want to let you guys know right out the dot, I'm struggling with some allergies this morning, and I've been struggling with it since last week. My throat isn't the best, so I might have to stop, clear my throat. I might mess up some words. So I feel fine, just a little bit of allergies. So if I don't seem as crisp as I normally do, that's why. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So the first thing we'll discuss is the Euro and the GFS. What I can tell you is they are starting to come together now and agreeing kind of at least around the placement of where this low pressure is going to be. So I do want to start off Wednesday morning because I want to speak a little bit about a system ahead of this that could actually impact the main system, and I'll speak on how it could. So this is Wednesday morning, not a whole lot going on. We get into Wednesday afternoon, this coming Wednesday, March the 12th. You see some moisture showing up here in like Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. This is that first system. Little trough, little short wave area of energy. This could actually bring some severe weather across this area, like the Arklatex, Louisiana, Arkansas, Eastern Texas, etc. We could have a severe weather day. I don't think it'll be significant, but is a day to watch. So this will swing through and it could bring more storms, showers, rain across the deep south. And then that's all she wrote with that. Then we get into Friday morning. We see a lot of blue across the Rockies, and this is our low pressure ejecting off the Rockies from a trough, digging down across the western U.S. And as this trough begins to tilt, the low pressure and associated with it will begin to strengthen. So kind of ignore all these other low L's right here and really focus on this one. 976 millibar low. That's incredibly strong land cyclone, land low pressure. I mean, that's like equivalent to a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane. And it ejects, which means it cruises across the central U.S. And we'll back it up here. This is Friday evening, March the 15th. And March the 14th. And you see this rain here, like it just shows up in green. This could actually be strong to severe thunderstorms. And I'll show you another sort of a way to look at this towards the end of the severe weather breakdown here. But 976 low, we get into Saturday morning, March the 15th. We have this area of green that you're seeing here, but this could very well be just strong to severe storms all the way up into like the Midwest and Ohio Valley. 975 low, you see this corridor of blue, that could be heavy snow, but when you look at this, my first thought is, well, the snow side of this doesn't look very large. It looks like mainly rain moving into Minnesota. And you would be right in thinking that. I mean, there's a possibility there's not a lot of cold air involved in this system, so the moisture can't really switch to any kind of snow. But where it is snowing, with such a deep low pressure, strong low pressure, this could very well be a blizzard for a time period. And then this continues, and then we can flip it to the eastern U.S., and I knew it was going to do that. I'm going to have to switch it back to the OOZ. And let's kind of back it up here. This is next Saturday, 6 days from now. And what's interesting here is the main low pressure kind of moves off. And then we can have another secondary low pressure that sort of develops maybe somewhere into here. Because what's going on is the trough continues to dig down kind of into this area. So main low pressure sort of pivots up here. Another low pressure somewhere into here could develop and kind of move through here. This will kind of revamp the moisture, if you will, and basically reforce all the ingredients further north, especially surface moisture, back into the eastern U.S. So you see this kind of area of green. This could very well be strong to severe storms. This will be Saturday evening next weekend. And then eventually this will cruise into the rest of the eastern U.S. Sunday morning and bring in a lot of rain and the potential for, I mean, there's probably going to be some storms, kind of, especially from the mid-Atlantic points to the southeast. Sunday could be a severe weather day Sunday. In fact, I do think we will get severe weather Sunday a week from today. And then the system will continue to swing into the eastern U.S. by next Sunday evening, about a week from today, probably bringing a lot of high winds with it. And then we're done. So we're going to be talking about this for a while. Now, if you switch it to the GFS, I mean, I almost thought about not even showing this because it's kind of the same evolution. There's that first little system. This could impact, I'm going to try to explain this the best I can, but this first system could actually impact the moisture return that is brought in by our main system, because this system right here sort of suppresses the moisture return. And then the next system that moves in starts to rip in a lot of flow from the south like this. And because that one system kind of swings in through here, it kind of suppresses the moist field here. And then this system right here, our main system, has to work harder to pull moisture from the south. But I think it's going to be so strong, the flow from the south is going to be so strong from the south that it is just not going to have any issues recovering that huge moist sector. And you're thinking, if you're a first-time viewer, what do you mean moist air? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, moist air is a huge ingredient, higher dew points, a huge ingredient for severe weather. In fact, I think it's one of the first things you look at in the long range when you're trying to really hone in on a time frame for severe weather is moisture return. But anyways, GFS, this is getting into next Friday afternoon, 969 low. That's like equivalent to a flat-out Category 2 hurricane. I've seen Category 3 hurricanes have this kind of pressure. I mean, it's pretty wild. Now, this wants to have... Here comes my throat. I'm sorry, guys. This wants to have more of a high-impact winter weather side. So you see this blue here. This will be an all-out blizzard across the high plains, the western Dakotas, western Nebraska, maybe even northeast Colorado, Wyoming, and areas of Montana. But at the same time, you see this green down here. This would be severe weather, most likely. And this continues, spins around. And the GFS just brings more of a high-impact winter weather scenario across the Dakotas. So, you know, this isn't Mitch saying, you know, if you just tune into the Euro, the winter weather side, this is trending away. I think there's still a lot of disagreement on the winter weather side of things with this storm system between the GFS and the Euro. They're starting to agree somewhat with one another about the severe weather side of this. But this looks like just a washout of rain across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. But man, that is a powerful blizzard across the Dakotas. That is a corridor of very heavy snow. 975 low Saturday morning, March the 15th in the middle of Minnesota. This would be pumping out very strong winds associated with that snow, and then this heads on out. And then we'll switch it to the eastern U.S. And the same thing happens compared to what happens on the Euro. We get kind of a revamping of moisture right into here. Okay. Right into here, trough is digging down. More areas of energies. And I say energy as in more short waves, low pressures, pieces of energy. I like to use the word energy a lot. People that's been viewing for a long time know that. And they could continue to eject off this trough that's digging down. And if you're kind of wondering what I mean by trough, if you take let's take a larger look at this, and this. You see this? See this big blob of blue on your screen? That is lower pressure. That is our huge storm system that's moving in. So this is kind of moving into this area. This was our main low pressure that kind of pivot through this area as this area blue kind of swung in. And as it continues to progress eastward, more areas of energy sort of continue to pivot around this area of low pressure. And flow around this area in blue goes just like this. Okay, so that's why if you back this up, there's our main low. Here comes this trough. I mean, this is one heck of a trough moving in. And then a low immediately ejects and moves this way because we have a negatively, I mean, this thing is tilting very quickly. And as it does, in response, a surface low is going to develop and quickly strengthen. And then as this trough continues, you see this other extension right into here. This is pivoting just like that. In response, a low is going to develop. And I think there'll will be some sort of secondary low. And I think this will be honestly what kickstarts another severe weather event Saturday. Okay, so let's switch it back to the eastern U.S. Sorry to get a little off track there. Just wanted to kind of explain what I mean by trough. But you know, this is Saturday evening and March the 15th, and this could be a severe weather event ongoing across the deep south, the mid south. That shows a 996 low right here. But I mean, don't get so caught up in the placements of low pressures. We'll figure that out as we get a little bit closer. But we get into Sunday. And, you know, Sunday will be a day to watch, too. Just shows a blob of green, but that could very well be severe weather. So that's the breaking down the actual storm system. Now, let's kind of really hone into the severe weather threat. We're waking up, and, you know, a lot of people thought we would wake up to this because we had a lot more model agreement over the last 48 hours. And here we are. We're waking up to a slight risk in the yellow area this is for Friday. Okay, so in this yellow area, this is where we have a 15% risk of any severe weather. Anything past day 3, they don't section out the tornado, wind, and hail threat. We got to get day 3. We have to get actually inside day 3 from day 2 to day 1, the day of, before it really starts to section out those 3 risks. Okay, so 15% risk of severe weather, guys. This stretches all the way from almost Dubuque, Iowa, all the way down to southern areas of Louisiana and eastern Texas. So I zoom into this. This includes Davenport. It includes Bloomington. It includes St. Louis, Jefferson City, Columbia, Missouri, the entire boot heel of Missouri, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, a section of southwest Indiana, Evansville, all the way down to the entire state of Arkansas. A good chunk of Mississippi here, Florence, Alabama, Jackson, Alexandria, Shreveport, the Arklatex area. I think I said Little Rock already. So this is a large area, and I think we're going to get an increase to probably a 30% risk, which would show up in orange probably as we wake up tomorrow morning. And then we go to day 7, which is for next Saturday. Some people can say, you know, this coming Saturday now, since Saturday's already passed for this weekend. But this is for Saturday. Okay, next weekend, we have a 15% risk in this area from Nashville down to Chattanooga, Huntsville. Sorry about that, guys. Birmingham, over to Atlanta, Montgomery, Columbus, Pensacola, down to Gulfport, New Orleans. You guys have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So same thing, right? It's just a 15% risk of any severe weather. And I think Saturday has an opportunity to be a pretty big day also, especially with another low pressure forming, kind of re-bringing in all the ingredients overlapping each other back into the picture here. So I think Saturday has a risk to be a significant day too as far as severe weather. Now, there's nothing up for day 8. But I do think we need to watch for some severe weather for next Sunday. Also, let me try to get my clicker right here. And I would say we probably need to watch, probably this area. All right, for some severe weather. You know, maybe you chop that down a little bit. But anyways, we need to watch that for Sunday. We'll see if confidence increases for that region. Now, if we talk about the ingredients, and this is the part that could get kind of confusing. This is a flow at 500 millibars, so about 18,000 feet in the air. This is really what we look at when we try to figure out where the flow is coming from, 1, and then 2, how much wind energy do we have in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So we're getting into Thursday morning. There's that first system I talked about, and if you look, the flow from the first system, you see the wind barbs right here and right here, okay? the flow is kind of coming out of this direction and then kind of going like this. This is our little short wave. So what this is doing is actually forcing dry air kind of into the picture, into the deep south. This could actually suppress any kind of moist air to the south temporarily. All right, and that's something that, we're watching. But our main system moves in, our main dip in the jet, our trough of low pressure, a strong low begins to develop. In a response, a big time jet streak begins to develop, and then we get into Friday afternoon. Upper low is somewhere probably into here. Actual surface low somewhere up into here. But really focus in on the severe weather side of this. If we get this off, I'll put my cursor here. On this run of the Euro, that is over 125 knot mid-level jet. Winds are going well over 130 to 40 miles per hour and about 18,000 feet up in the air. So when you hear that, just think there's a lot of wind energy in the atmosphere, okay, to really yank in moisture from the southwest, things like that, okay? So a lot of wind energy, and what this is doing is this is yanking moist air from kind of this direction as the wind barbs are facing to the southwest. The flow is really more so out the west here, but this is starting to recover that moisture up into this area. Now, as far as kinematics, working with thermodynamics, your dew points to bring that more moist air back into the picture, you really look at the low-level wind field here. But you look at this just to show how much wind energy really is with this system. And as this continues, look at that jet streak over areas of the Midwest. And then you continue, and then here comes the secondary little system right here. You got to watch. A lot of wind energy, 80, 90, 100 knot mid-level jet riding over the southeast. A lot of wind energy riding over. And there it is. We're getting into Sunday. It starts to get pretty active too. This is going to bring a lot of strong winds probably. Next thing you look at is the 850 millibar winds, and I typically don't look at this far out, but I'm going to do it here. So this is Friday morning. This is the low-level wind field. So this is about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air, about a mile above your head at the surface here. So already, as we're getting into about midday Friday, we got this 40, 50, maybe at times 60 knot low-level jet riding over the Mississippi Valley, points west, really. So, these are winds just about interstate speed, about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air. So if you notice the flow, and let's move it to about Friday evening. And look at this. It's increasing to closer to 60 to 65 knots, right over that 15% area. So you see all this low-level wind field right over this area. Okay, and if you look really closely, you see this wind barb right here and right here. You see how it's facing to the south? That means your flow in the lower levels is screaming out the south. Okay, associated low right here, flow going around this low just like that. Okay, all the way up through here. So what is that doing? That's bringing in a lot of Gulf moisture up the Mississippi Valley, all the way up to the Midwest. That's why you have a 15% risk area of severe weather all the way up into the Midwest. So you got that, and you got the kinematics that you see, and I'll show you the dew points here in a second. And you got all this low-level wind energy, and you got turning with height, meaning in this area, the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere is coming out the southwest, but the lower levels of the atmosphere almost coming out the south. So wind's coming out of this direction, you go a little bit further up, then it's coming out of that direction, and then that little twisting of the wind puts a spin in the atmosphere. Therefore, you got a lot of wind energy and directional shear that supports tornadoes, and just got a lot of wind energy, so you're probably going to have a damaging wind threat with this too. Now, if you keep on going, things get a little bit more weird as we get into Saturday, because we got to figure out if there's any kind of secondary load that forms. But to me, on this run of the Euro, it shows that. Look at this 70, 80 knot low-level jet screaming over areas of Alabama into the southern Alps, right into the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains. And, low-level jet in higher elevations turns into surface type stuff, because you got to think low-level jet's about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air from sea level. Okay, so if you live like 3, 4, 5,000 feet up in the air, you're actually in the low level jet. I think a lot of people forget that kind of stuff. And Helene was a great example of that, and why the wind damage and the tree damage was so significant in the higher elevations. But this just shows a massive wind event next Saturday and the Sunday across the eastern U.S. and the lower levels of the atmosphere. And it would be, even though this is in the upper levels of the atmosphere, this would mix to the surface, and it could be a significant wind event for areas of the eastern U.S. as we're getting into Sunday. But then looking at the moisture, in response to that low-level jet and mid-level jet, okay, this is going to pull in a lot of that moisture. So this is just one run of the Euro. This is next Friday afternoon. Now we got dew points trending all the way up into the 60s, almost all the way up into Missouri. We got dew points into the 50s, into the Midwest. And remember, you don't need dew points as high the further north and really west you get, because you start to kind of rise in elevation, especially the further west you get. But I think dew points will be much higher than this and what the Euro is showing. And in fact, as we're getting into, say, Friday night and Saturday morning, I do think dew points start to get into the 60s up into the Midwest. But I mean, look at this broad, moist sector. I mean, we got dew points deep into the 60s now, even some 70s down to Louisiana, southwest Mississippi. And this has turned into a much more significant area of moist air. So when you get dew points in the 60s, that begins to support severe weather for really anywhere, especially the deep south. Dew points in the 50s and lower, not so much. You walk outside and you say, hey, I don't really feel any humidity in the atmosphere. 60s and higher, you walk outside and you can say, okay, I feel a little bit of juice in the atmosphere. It's a little humid outside. So this huge sector of moist air, thermodynamic wise, is an ingredient for severe weather. And then we start to move into Sunday. Gets kind of weird, but this is Saturday evening. But look at this corridor, very moist air, in Mississippi still, Alabama, getting into Georgia. Look at the moist air rising out of the southwest Atlantic here. And then we start to get into Sunday morning, and there is that opportunity for some severe weather next Sunday as we get dew points to rise on this particular run all the way up through the Delmarva and even PA and New Jersey. So that's why I do think there'll be a severe weather event in that area I circled a few moments ago there. And then the atmosphere clears out and we're done for now. And in response to the higher dew points, you're going to get some higher CAPE levels. For example, this is Friday. Look at these CAPE levels already on an operational run like the Euro, showing over 1,500 joules per kilogram. And this is the worrisome thing, as we're already getting some high levels of storm fuel, CAPE levels, fuel to really get these storms going, showing up for areas of Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Now this is getting into explosive levels of CAPE here for all the other ingredients that we already have in the picture here. Over 2,000 joules per kilogram at CAPE. We even have plenty of storm energy to get these storms going all the way up into the Midwest. Pockets over 1,000 joules per kilogram at CAPE on this particular run in Illinois. That's a lot. And then we, carry on into Saturday morning, and I think it turns into more of a low CAPE, high shear event. But I still think there'll be more energy in the atmosphere than what this is showing. Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a storm system, guys. And just kind of show you guys the evolution of this storm as we're getting into Friday morning. There's the low right here. And then this is Friday evening. And look at these storms across Arkansas, Missouri. And this very well could turn into more of a higher impact severe weather event for like Arkansas points north into Missouri. Very well could. And then it sweeps through. And then look at the storms that develop down here in the deep south. You see these colors in like orange, yellow, and red. These are just storms indicated by the Euro, and then it develops into this nasty squall line and moves through Alabama, Georgia, and we're probably going to get some storms once again into eastern North Carolina, Virginia, up to the Delmarva. But this will be a wind-driven event, I think, and you can't just totally rule out tornadoes either. But look at this line of storms next Sunday evening, moving through. This isn't. We don't know if this is exactly what's going to happen, but there will be a lot of winds associated with this. But man, we got so much to figure out, guys. This is a powerful storm system. It's going to be a lot of rain with this, and this is a combination between not just the storm system this weekend, but the storm system we just broke down, and multiple storm systems. So there's probably going to be more storm systems after the one we just broke down. So this is, between now and like the 19th of March, it really shows a lot of rain for areas of the Mid-South, the Deep South, and up into the Ohio Valley. And we have to watch this because a significant flooding event could materialize in areas of the southern and central Appalachian Mountains, which, in areas like eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, there's a lot of areas that, are still dealing with the impacts of Helene, and we just don't need any flooding rains. And we're probably going to get some heavy rain in these areas and some strong winds. Now the snow side of this, guys, is tricky. This is the Euro ensemble. It does show a corridor of snow. I'm going to try to draw on this. Shows that corridor of snow really up here. Okay. And shows a lot of snow across the Rockies. But, low kind of moving across this area. Maybe get north or south of that. This is where our blizzard opportunity could be. We'll watch for it. But we're still trying to figure it out. Okay, there is a few inch snowfall mean across areas of the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. And if we kind of go back when we were breaking down the last storm system, it was kind of the same. It was very tough, very spotty to figure out. Now, the GFS ensemble is much more aggressive with the snow, like its operational run. And here it is, shows the corridor of snow up into here. Okay, outside the Rockies. So it shows a much higher snowfall average footprint of snow. And this is where our blizzard could be. Now, winds, this is predicted wind gust swath off the Euro from between now and next weekend. Okay, let's back it up here. All right, this is from a system beforehand. This is where we'll have an opportunity for a blizzard. You see kind of in this area right here. Kind of right into here. Stronger winds. That's from a system previously. Okay. What a better way to look at this is this. This is very confusing. And I could see certainly how it could be. Let's do it like this, where it appears and then disappears. So here it comes. We're getting into next Wednesday. All right, let's move a little bit quicker, okay? And then we're getting into the time frame of our system. This is our storm system. You see these strong winds associated with it. This is next Friday afternoon. Well, this coming Friday afternoon, okay? Look at the swath of 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gust in the southern high plains from Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma into Kansas. This is going to be a significant wind event in this area. Even if you don't get a drop of or flake of anything, significant wind event. And then you see these winds, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts in the high plains here, developing up here in the western Dakotas and Nebraska, eastern Montana, and eastern Wyoming. This is where our blizzard potential could be. But man, when this initial low ejects, these winds are going to be damaging most likely down here. Big time wind event into Friday. And then we'll have to watch as we're getting into the eastern U.S. for Saturday. Big time wind event Saturday midday. It's showing up for areas of the Midwest and Ohio Valley. 30, 40 mile per hour wind gust in this area because a strong low pressure is right up here. And then we're probably going to have some sort of secondary low that kickstarts some strong winds across the Appalachian Mountains all the way down to the Deep South, maybe Saturday evening into the overnight hours, and then Sunday. Look at this area, this corridor of strong winds all the way up the I-95 corridor into New England. So these winds could be quite significant too for Sunday. Big storm system, guys. And man, I'm already gassed just thinking about going over all that information the entire week. But this is a big storm system. So speaking on today's weather, there is a potent little storm system ongoing right now. We got some strong thunderstorms across the panhandle of Florida, North Florida, into southern Georgia. I called it wrong. I thought that we would have a little uptick in severe weather to a slight risk, honestly, across these areas, but we did not. And the Storm Prediction Center was exactly right. And we're just not getting the ingredients for tornadoes, thankfully. But there's a lot going on. A low pressure is going to begin to deepen over this area and really expand all this moisture across the southeast. The western U.S. is quiet, a little bit of snow across the northeast, but that's what's going on right now. We do have flood watches that expire over the next day down here across southern Georgia and northern Florida. Some of these areas will get several inches of rain. Elsewhere, I mean, it's quiet. We got some winter weather advisories across the Cascades, but quiet weather. There is a risk of strong to severe storms down here from the system, and there is a tornado threat. So if you live down here across northern Florida, the Panhandle of Florida, don't ignore the tornado threat today. There is just enough ingredients for a risk of tornadoes, but it's low. That is just a 2% risk down here. We got the flood watch too. And then excessive rainfall. There is a slight risk in the same area where we have to worry about severe weather, southern Georgia, northern Florida. This means that you have a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in a given location. Elsewhere, no risk of flooding. So we continue to move forward here, and here is this system. Watch how, it looks like it's kind of dying off, and then it'll just expand with moisture. But here's those storms moving across northern Florida, the Panhandle of Florida this afternoon. I'm telling you, these could produce some strong winds and a brief tornado. So please be aware if you live in this area of Florida, even southern Georgia today. Just heavy rain to the north, but as we're starting to get into the overnight hours, if you love a rainy night, you're going to get it across areas of the deep south and the southeast into the low country of South Carolina. Moisture really begins to get heavier across central Georgia and South Carolina. And we're going to be waking up to a very rainy start from Atlanta to Columbia, maybe up to Charlotte, the rest of the state of South Carolina. And it's all because of this low that's really strengthening as it gets back off the coast of the southeast. And could have a line of thunderstorms moving across the southern half of the peninsula of Florida. But it's going to be a lot of heavy rain that we're going to have to deal with even the entire second half of the day tomorrow. So soaking rain for certain areas. In fact, if we look at the rain between now and Tuesday morning, several inches of rain expected. Jacksonville going for around 4 inches of rain. Southern Georgia, 2 to 3 inches of rain. The coastal areas of South Carolina, up into North Carolina, a lot of rain. So a lot of rain's on the way. I mean, this will, if you've been dry, this will definitely put a dent in that. But even heavy rain all the way into Wilmington, all the way up into the southern Outer Banks, even going for an inch of rain up into Columbia. But there's a sharp gradient with this where, areas in North Carolina points north won't really get much at all. So the Northeast today, some snow showers are possible in the interior New England area. Could deliver a dusting of snow, maybe a couple inches. And then a clipper moves in. This will bring some snow this evening across the Tug Hill Plateau, the Adirondacks, into Vermont, New Hampshire. This little clipper will be pretty strong. It will kind of get stronger as it moves into New England and weaken. But, this is the middle of the night tonight. Could bring some moderate to heavy snow across Vermont, New Hampshire, and then the down east areas, the southern areas of Maine could get some snow into the down east areas, and then it'll cruise on out, and that'll be it. But that will bring a swath of accumulating snow into these areas. And just looking at how much snow, I'm just going to look at this. Maybe a couple inches of snow through this area. And somebody could squeeze in maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow in this little corridor right into here overnight tonight. So the south central U.S., some rain showers and some light to moderate rain across areas of southern Arkansas this afternoon. This could become more widespread as it moves across that area and then starts to get into Mississippi and just brings some rain throughout the overnight hours, and then it pivots on away. So we're going to get a little bit of rain in this area today. And then the north central U.S., there's that clipper. It kind of misses you guys to the north. So it ends up being a pretty nice day across the north central U.S. Not really anything to speak on. And then out west, system begins to move into the Pacific Northwest. Higher elevation snow in the Cascades, Olympic Mountains, lower elevation rain. Then that system weakens, and then our major system begins, or our next system. This isn't our big system. This is a system. I just said system about 1 million times. But our system begins to move into the picture here off the coast of California. But it's a pretty quiet weather day again across the western U.S. These are temperatures in no really warm. I would say there's no really cold air across the country. There's no super warm air either. The only area that's going to be pretty warm, almost hot, is the peninsula of Florida. But everywhere else, just kind of pretty mild day. I mean, it is starting to, get into the middle portion of March now, so it's not totally unusual, but we're going to get a big surge of warmth all the way up into the high plains today. 60s, 70s, a beautiful day up into the Dakotas. Enjoy it because the weather will get crazy towards the end of the week. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Sunday.